Muscle loss after 60, the slow damage nobody warns you about. Most people believe muscle loss is just a normal part of aging, something unavoidable. Budhape me, kamzoria hieri hai. We've all heard this line. Doctors say it casually, families accept it quietly, and seniors slowly adjust their lives around it. But here's the truth most people never hear. Muscle loss after 60 is not normal, it's dangerous, and it's largely preventable. The problem starts much earlier than people realize. Around age 30, the body begins losing muscle very slowly, so slowly that you don't notice it. You still feel strong, you still walk fine, you still lift groceries without thinking. But under the surface, something is changing. Your body is quietly breaking down muscle faster than it rebuilds it. For decades, this slow loss doesn't feel like a threat. Then suddenly, after 60, the decline speeds up. Not gradually, dramatically. Research shows muscle loss can reach 3% per year after this age. That doesn't sound like much until you do the math. Over 10 years, that's nearly a third of your muscle gone. And muscle is not just about strength or appearance. Muscle is your safety system. Strong muscles keep you balanced. They protect your joints. They absorb shock when you stumble. They help you stand up from a chair, climb stairs, catch yourself before a fall. When muscle disappears, those safety nets disappear with it. This is why falls are the #1 cause of accidental death in seniors. It's not bad luck, it's biology. Weak legs can't react fast enough. Weak hips can't stabilize the body. Weak core muscles can't keep balance. A simple slip becomes a broken bone. A broken bone becomes loss of independence. And for many, that's the beginning of a rapid decline. By age 80, studies show up to 50% of people suffer from sarcopenia, the medical term for severe age-related muscle loss. This isn't rare. This isn't extreme, this is common, and it's rarely discussed honestly. What makes this even more troubling is how muscle loss affects the brain. Less muscle means less movement. Less movement means reduced blood flow. Reduced blood flow affects cognition. Research now links muscle loss with faster cognitive decline, memory problems, and even higher dementia risk. So when people say, "I'm getting old, that's why I'm weak," they're not describing age, they're describing untreated muscle loss. The good news, and this is important, is that muscles do not lose their ability to grow. Even in your 70s, 80s, even 90s, muscle tissue can still respond. Studies have shown that 90-year-olds can build muscle when nutrition is right. The body doesn't forget how to build muscle, it just needs the right signal, and that's where most people go wrong. They assume eating some protein is enough. They assume walking a little is enough. They assume weakness is inevitable. None of this is true. Muscle loss after 60 is not a fate, it's a signal problem, and fixing that signal starts with understanding why protein alone is no longer enough. Why protein alone stops working after 60. Most seniors are doing what they think is right. They eat eggs, they drink milk. They maybe even add a protein shake, and yet they keep getting weaker. This creates confusion, frustration, and eventually resignation. I'm eating protein, but nothing is changing. Here's the uncomfortable truth. After 60, your muscles stop listening to protein the way they used to. Scientists call this anabolic resistance. Sounds complex, but the idea is simple. When you were younger, your muscles were sensitive. You ate protein, and your body quickly used it to repair and rebuild muscle. After 60, that sensitivity drops. The same amount of protein no longer triggers the muscle-building response. Think of it like a doorbell. When you were young, one press rang the bell loudly. Now, the bell is muffled. Pressing lightly does nothing. You have to press harder or longer for the signal to go through. That's what's happening inside aging muscle cells. The protein isn't useless. It's just not strong enough by itself to flip the muscle-building switch anymore. This is why studies show that many seniors consume what looks like adequate protein on paper, yet still lose muscle every year. Their muscles are essentially starving while food is present. To make things worse, digestion also changes with age. Stomach acid decreases, enzyme production slows, protein absorption becomes less efficient. So not only does the muscle need a stronger signal, but less of the protein even reaches it. The supplement industry loves this confusion. They push more protein powder, bigger scoops, higher grams, but dumping more protein into the system doesn't fix the signal problem. It just creates expensive urine. What aging muscles need is not just protein quantity, they need precision. Research from multiple universities shows that muscles after 60 respond best when protein is Z-rock, highly digestible, properly timed, and rich in a specific trigger amino acid. Without that trigger, protein becomes background noise. This explains why traditional breakfasts fail seniors. Toast and tea, zero signal. Oatmeal alone, weak signal. Eggs, moderate protein but insufficient trigger. Even protein shakes often fail because they lack the right amino acid balance. This is also why eating most protein at dinner is a mistake. Muscles respond best when protein is evenly distributed across meals, especially breakfast. Breakfast is when muscles are most primed to respond after overnight fasting. Skipping protein at breakfast is like missing the first workout of the day. but worse because it happens every single morning. So the question becomes, what exactly is the trigger aging muscles are waiting for? That answer is leucine. Leucine, the master switch that decides whether your muscles grow or shrink. Leucine is not a trendy supplement. It's not new. It's not exotic. It's simply one of the 9 essential amino acids, but it behaves very differently from the others. Leucine is the signal, not the building block. Think of muscle like a construction site. Protein provides the bricks, but leucine is the foreman who tells the workers to start building. Without the foreman, the bricks just sit there. As we age, the muscle-building pathway becomes harder to activate. Scientists discovered that older adults need a minimum leucine threshold at each meal to trigger muscle protein synthesis. That threshold is roughly 2.5 to 3 grams per meal. Below that, nothing happens. This is why so many healthy meals fail seniors. They contain protein, but not enough leucine. The muscle-building machinery never turns on. Research from the University of Texas showed that when older adults consumed meals below the leucine threshold, muscle protein synthesis barely increased. When the threshold was met or exceeded, muscle growth switched back on, even without heavy exercise. This is a game changer. It means muscle loss after 60 is not about age. It's about missing the leucine signal meal after meal, year after year. Eggs, for example, are nutritious, but you'd need several eggs in one sitting to reach the leucine threshold. Most seniors don't eat that much. Same with many grains and plant foods. Foods that naturally hit the leucine threshold, or come close, suddenly become incredibly powerful, especially when eaten at breakfast, when muscles are most receptive. Leucine doesn't just build muscle, it protects it. It reduces muscle breakdown, it improves recovery. It even supports insulin sensitivity, which helps shuttle nutrients into muscle cells more efficiently. This is why foods rich in leucine change the trajectory of aging. They don't just slow muscle loss, they reverse it. Once you understand leucine, nutrition stops being confusing. You stop chasing calories. You stop obsessing over grams. You start asking a better question. Does this meal flip the muscle-building switch? If the answer is yes, you're winning, regardless of age. Why most healthy breakfasts quietly accelerate muscle loss. Most people don't realize this, but the breakfast they've been eating for years might actually be working against their muscles. Not because it's junk food, but because it sends the wrong signal to an aging body. Toast with jam, cereal with milk, oatmeal by itself, even fruit smoothies. On the surface, these look healthy. Doctors rarely criticize them. Nutrition labels don't raise red flags. But for someone over 60, these breakfasts share a dangerous flaw. They don't activate muscle building at all. After an overnight fast, your body wakes up in a muscle breakdown state. That's normal. While you sleep, your body uses stored energy, and some muscle protein is broken down. Breakfast is supposed to stop that process and flip the body back into rebuilding mode. But when breakfast lacks enough high-quality protein, and more importantly, lacks enough leucine, muscle breakdown continues for hours longer than it should. This means many seniors unknowingly spend half their day in a catabolic state, where muscle is slowly being eaten away. And because this happens silently, without pain, without obvious symptoms, it goes unnoticed for years, until one day standing up feels harder, stairs feel steeper, balance feels shaky. Even worse, sugary or carb-heavy breakfasts cause insulin spikes that actually interfere with muscle protein synthesis in older adults. Research shows that excessive sugar intake can blunt the anabolic response, meaning even if some protein is present, muscles don't respond efficiently. This is why flavored yogurts, sweet cereals, pastries, and even healthy granola can sabotage results. The tragedy is that seniors are often told to eat light in the morning. But light doesn't mean weak. What aging muscles need is precision, not restriction. A breakfast that sends the right signal doesn't have to be heavy or expensive. It just has to be designed for an older body, not a 25-year-old metabolism. Once you understand this, breakfast stops being a routine and becomes a strategy. And that strategy begins with foods that speak the language your muscles still understand. Why Greek yogurt and cottage cheese work, when eggs don't. For decades, eggs were treated like the gold standard of muscle food. And to be fair, they are nutritious. But nutrition is not the same as effectiveness, especially after 60. Aging muscles don't respond to protein the way they once did, and eggs simply don't deliver the right signal strongly enough for most seniors. This is where Greek yogurt and cottage cheese quietly outperform eggs, and almost nobody talks about it. Both of these foods are rich in casein protein, a slow-digesting protein that releases amino acids steadily over several hours. This matters enormously for older adults. Muscle breakdown doesn't stop when you finish eating. It continues between meals, and it accelerates overnight. Casein acts like a slow drip of fuel, feeding muscles when they would otherwise be breaking down. Greek yogurt has another advantage. It combines fast-acting whey protein with slow-acting casein. Whey delivers amino acids quickly, hitting the leucine threshold fast. Casein sustains that signal. It's a 1-2 punch that aging muscles respond to exceptionally well. Cottage cheese goes even further. Around 80% of its protein is casein. That's why studies show eating cottage cheese before bed can protect muscle overnight just as effectively as expensive protein supplements. Same effect, fraction of the cost. Eggs, on the other hand, are absorbed relatively quickly and contain less leucine per typical serving. That doesn't make them bad, it just makes them insufficient on their own for seniors trying to preserve or rebuild muscle. There's also a psychological factor here. Yogurt and cottage cheese are easy to eat. No heavy chewing, no cooking, no appetite barrier. This matters more with age than people admit. Consistency beats perfection every time. The biggest mistake people make is choosing flavored versions loaded with sugar. That sugar spike cancels out many of the muscle-building benefits. Plain versions, customized at home, are where the real power lies. When seniors switch from traditional breakfasts to protein-centered ones like these, strength improvements often appear within weeks, not months. Because the body finally starts receiving a signal it hasn't heard clearly in years. Why plant proteins were dismissed for years, and why that was a mistake. For a very long time, plant protein was treated like a second-class citizen in the muscle-building world. The idea was simple and repeated so often that nobody questioned it. Plant proteins are incomplete, poorly absorbed, and useless for serious muscle. This belief became so common that many seniors completely avoided plant-based foods when thinking about strength. But newer research has quietly exposed a flaw in that thinking, especially when it comes to aging muscles. The problem was never that plant proteins couldn't build muscle. The problem was which plants and how they were consumed. Many common plant foods are indeed low in certain amino acids or poorly digested, but some plant sources behave very differently. Foods like quinoa, tempeh, and hemp seeds don't just contain protein, they contain usable protein, and that distinction matters enormously after 60. Digestibility becomes a major issue with age. Even if a food contains protein on paper, it doesn't help if the body can't break it down properly. This is where fermentation and seed-based proteins change the game. Tempeh, for example, is fermented, which removes anti-nutrients that block absorption. That fermentation also supports gut bacteria, and gut health plays a much bigger role in muscle building than most people realize. Scientists now talk about something called the gut-muscle axis. In simple terms, a healthier gut improves amino acid absorption, reduces inflammation, and improves how muscles respond to protein. This is why some seniors feel stronger simply by changing food quality, not quantity. Quinoa and hemp seeds also bring something rare to the table: complete amino acid profiles. That means all 9 essential amino acids are present. For aging muscles that already struggle to respond, completeness matters. Missing amino acids slow the entire process down. The old idea that only meat builds muscle doesn't hold up anymore, especially when digestion, inflammation, and affordability are considered. Plant proteins aren't replacements, they're strategic tools, and when chosen correctly, they help aging muscles in ways many animal foods don't. Why spirulina shocked researchers and changed the protein conversation. Spirulina sounds strange at first. Blue-green algae doesn't exactly scream breakfast food. Many people dismiss it instantly because it doesn't fit their idea of normal eating. But when researchers looked past appearances and tested it objectively, the results were so unexpected that they had to double-check them multiple times. The reason is simple but unbelievable. Spirulina is 60–70% protein by weight. No common whole food comes close. Not chicken, not eggs, not beef. That level of protein density completely changes what's possible for seniors who struggle with appetite or digestion. As people age, appetite often decreases. Heavy meals feel uncomfortable. Chewing becomes tiring. Large portions are unappealing. Spirulina solves a problem most people don't even realize they have: protein density without volume. A small amount delivers a serious nutritional signal. But spirulina's impact isn't just about protein quantity. It contains compounds that actively reduce muscle damage and inflammation. One of these compounds, responsible for its deep blue color, acts as a powerful antioxidant. This matters because aging muscles are more vulnerable to oxidative stress, which slows recovery and accelerates breakdown. What truly impressed researchers was spirulina's effect on both sides of the muscle equation. It doesn't just stimulate muscle protein synthesis, it also reduces muscle breakdown. That's rare. Most foods do one or the other, not both. For seniors, this dual effect is critical. Muscle loss isn't caused by lack of growth alone, it's caused by excessive breakdown. Spirulina helps shift that balance back in your favor. It doesn't need to be dramatic. No special recipes, no lifestyle overhaul. A small daily amount blended into something familiar is enough to send a powerful signal. That's why scientists were stunned. Not because it's exotic, but because it's efficient. Why breakfast timing matters more after 60 than any other age. When people think about muscle building, they focus on what they eat, not when they eat it. For younger adults, timing matters less. Their muscles are sensitive all day long. For seniors, timing becomes critical, and breakfast is the most important window of all. After sleeping overnight, your body is in a fasted state. Muscle protein breakdown is elevated, blood sugar is low, hormones are primed for response. This is when muscles are most receptive to the right nutritional signal. If that signal is weak or missing, muscle breakdown continues deep into the day. This is why skipping protein at breakfast is so damaging after 60. It's not just one missed meal, it's hours of lost opportunity. By the time lunch arrives, the damage is already done. Repeat this pattern daily, and muscle loss becomes inevitable. Research tracking seniors over several years found that those who distributed protein evenly across meals had better strength, better balance, and better mobility than those who consumed most protein at dinner. Loading protein at night cannot compensate for missing it in the morning. Breakfast sets the metabolic tone for the day. It tells your body whether it's a day for preservation or a day for decline. High leucine, anti-inflammatory, digestible protein at breakfast sends a message aging muscles still understand: build, don't break down. This doesn't mean breakfast has to be heavy or complicated. It means it has to be intentional. 1 or 2 well-chosen foods are enough. The goal is not perfection, it's consistency. When seniors fix breakfast, many notice improvements before anything else changes. Better energy, stronger legs, improved balance, less fear of movement, because the body finally starts each day from a position of strength instead of loss. Why cheap, simple foods work better than expensive supplements. One of the biggest lies sold to seniors is that strength comes from something expensive. Shiny supplement jars, complicated powders, fancy labels promising advanced muscle formula. The truth is uncomfortable for that industry. Strong seniors don't need expensive products. They need the right food signals. Most supplements are designed for younger bodies, bodies that still respond easily to protein, bodies that digest fast, bodies that don't struggle with inflammation or absorption. Seniors are different. They don't need more grams. They need better quality and better timing. That's why these breakfast foods work so well. Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, oatmeal, hemp seeds, sardines, tempeh, quinoa, spirulina. None of them are exotic. None of them are marketed aggressively. None of them make companies rich, and that's exactly why they're ignored. These foods do something supplements often fail to do. They work with the body instead of forcing it. They digest slowly. They release amino acids steadily. They calm inflammation. They support gut health. They quietly restore balance. And there's something else nobody talks about: consistency. Seniors are far more likely to eat familiar foods every day than remember to take powders, measure scoops, or tolerate stomach discomfort from supplements. Food becomes habit. Supplements become effort. Strength is built through repetition, not intensity. A simple breakfast eaten every morning beats an expensive supplement taken inconsistently. This is why low-cost foods outperform high-cost products over time. Real strength doesn't come from spending more money. It comes from sending the right message to your muscles every single day. Why small daily wins matter more than big changes after 60. One of the most damaging beliefs about health after 60 is that change has to be dramatic, that if you can't overhaul everything, it's not worth starting. This mindset keeps people stuck. It keeps them waiting. And while they wait, muscle loss continues quietly. The body doesn't need perfection. It needs signals. One correct signal repeated daily is enough to change direction. Adding Greek yogurt to breakfast, sprinkling hemp seeds on oatmeal, swapping cereal for cottage cheese. These are not big changes. They don't feel heroic, but biologically, they are powerful. Each one tells the body, we are not done yet. Muscle responds slowly, but it responds reliably. Seniors who make small, consistent changes often regain strength they thought was gone forever. Standing up feels easier. Walking feels steadier. Confidence returns, not because life suddenly became easier, but because the body became more capable. This is how independence is preserved. Not through motivation, through systems, through habits that don't rely on willpower. When breakfast becomes muscle supportive by default, strength becomes a side effect, and side effects are easier to maintain than goals. The real goal isn't muscle, it's independence. At the end of the day, muscle isn't about looking strong. It's about living without fear. Fear of falling, fear of stairs, fear of becoming a burden, fear of losing control over daily life. Muscle is what allows people to age with dignity. It's what keeps choices available. The choice to travel, the choice to live alone, the choice to say yes instead of no. This is why breakfast matters so much. Not because it's trendy, but because it's the first decision of the day, and decisions compound. A muscle-building breakfast isn't about discipline. It's about self-respect. It's a quiet declaration that aging does not mean surrender. You don't need to do everything. You don't need to eat all 8 foods. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to start. One food, one morning, one signal. Over time, those signals become strength, and strength becomes freedom.